Welcome back, everybody, to the next episode of the podcast. We are now on episode 8, and we've got a pretty fun show planned here. The NFL draft obviously is in the books, so we're going to give our reactions to certain teams, winners, losers, all of that stuff. And we've got some other fun segments planned throughout the show as well. So as always, of course, I'm joined by Nickinator. If you want to say hello to the viewers.
Not much, just already going to prepare for the 2024 draft and cannot wait for that.
We have less than a year away. We're getting close. But as I said, we're going to talk about the draft. We're going to talk about some Rookie of the Year candidates. We're going to talk about the NBA playoffs, the MLB season, and then we've got a new game for our fun segment at the end. So we're not going to waste any time and get right on into it. So we're going to start with our reactions to the NFL draft, which obviously occurred this weekend. We were expecting craziness, and boy, did we get craziness. It was pretty wild, especially at the top. We're going to give some winners and losers. I obviously made a full draft grades video, so if you guys want more detail on who I think are the winners and losers, you can certainly check that out. We'll start with the winners, and I feel like there are some kind of obvious ones. Everybody seems to say Pittsburgh, the Colts, the Eagles, the Giants, and I agree with all of those. I think those teams crushed it out of the park. But two teams who are not getting enough credit. The first one is Arizona. I think the Cardinals had a better draft than anyone. Their ability to navigate up and down the draft board was really impressive. They got a king's ransom for the number 3 pick. And yes, Will Anderson would be awesome on that defense, but I would rather picks 12, 34, and a future first-round pick next year from Houston. They used 12 and 34 to move up for Paris Johnson, which I think is a pretty good move. They need help on the offensive line. Kyler Murray endorsed him quite a bit, and they still have Houston's first-round pick next year, which is probably going to be in the top 5 to 10 picks in what is expected to be a loaded top of the 2024 NFL draft with elite quarterbacks, elite offensive playmakers, elite offensive linemen, and some very good defensive players as well up and down the board. So the Cardinals have really positioned themselves well, and I give their new GM a whole lot of credit. Another team who I don't think is being talked enough is the Cleveland Browns. I think they had a very good draft as well. They did not pick until the 3rd round, but they got value with pretty much all of their picks, especially on day 3 with guys like DeJuan Jones, Luke Whippler, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I thought the Browns did really, really well for themselves, again, considering they did not pick until the 3rd round.
Yeah, I think you and me both have very similar opinions on how pretty much every team did. The Steelers did really good. Giants, unfortunately, did good for once. And as I am biased, the Eagles did fantastic as always. But another team that I feel is kind of going underrated because of one specific very bad pick is the Seattle Seahawks. Their first round was fantastic, getting probably corner 1 with Devin Witherspoon, and then getting a future wide receiver 1 with Jackson Smith and Jigba. And then going into round 2, they got another athletic edge rusher, Derek Hall, and then their bad pick was Zach Charbonnet, who is supposed to be battling for the RB1 spot with Kenneth Walker, who was a 1,000-yard rusher as a rookie. And I don't understand that at all. The fit is horrible, and he's literally just a slightly worse version of Kenneth Walker, so I don't get the point at all. But after that, they were able to pick it up. They got some linemen. They got Cam Young, good nose tackle to help that horrid defensive line. And I do really like what the Seahawks are able to do, not just in round 1, but even in those later rounds. And then a team like the Colts were able to get a lot of athletic freaks, I guess you can say. Getting Anthony Richardson at 4, of course, going to be the QB1. Hopefully he doesn't have to start day 1, give him a little time to kind of develop. But I'm not too upset if he has to start week 1 because I do think he has a good supporting cast around him. I think the offensive line should get a lot better going into this year. They're a lot more healthy this year. He's got a lot more weapons going into this year, getting a guy like Josh Downs to be a great slot receiver. They got the athletic Julius Spence to play corner, replacing Stephon Gilmore. And even in day 3, they got Blake Freeland out of BYU to be a future left tackle. They got your guy out of Northwestern, the name I still can't pronounce. Really great D lineman to pair with DeForest Buckner and Kwity Paye. And just as they keep going, Darius Rush, Daniel Scott, all these guys just great playmakers on the offense and defense side of the ball. And I think Chris Greer, that's the Dolphins guy. You know who I mean, whatever his name is. He did a lot better than he has been this past few years, but hopefully he gets to keep his job because he's very good at drafting.
Let's take a look at some losers now as well. My lowest graded drafts were San Francisco, Kansas City, and New Orleans. All three of those teams didn't have super high picks. I mean, the Niners didn't pick until the third round, but I still feel like they're a loser because they did not optimize value, unlike, say, Cleveland. I mean, the Niners picked a kicker in the third round of one of their 3 thirds, and that might have been the best pick they made in round 3 because Jake Moody is really good. In terms of some other drafts I didn't love, I feel like I'm a little bit lower on the Bucks draft than other people. I don't mind Kalijah Cansey as a prospect, but I think there were better value for some of the interior defensive linemen later in the class, like Keanu Benton in the second round, Adetomiwa Adebawore in the fourth round. Cody Mount, I'm a little bit lower on him as well. Their second round pick, the offensive tackle out of North Dakota State. I will give the Bucks a shout out for signing Sean Tucker in undrafted free agency. I think he could actually get a pretty big role on that team if he makes the roster, which, considering the bonus they gave him, there's certainly a good shot at that. Minnesota also kind of had a weird draft. It wasn't necessarily bad, and I don't mind Jordan Addison in the first round, but I really thought they would have picked Will Levis in that scenario. They've been sort of stuck in mediocrity for a while with Kirk Cousins, who isn't a bad quarterback, but that was a real opportunity to get a long-term replacement for him, and Levis wouldn't have had to play right away. He fell to your lap. He didn't even have to trade up, and they didn't do it. And it's not like the rest of their draft was all that spectacular, although I do really like Dwayne McBride in the 7th round, the running back out of UAB. And then I didn't like what the Bears did early. I thought Darnell Wright at pick 10 was a reach. I thought they should have picked Jalen Carter at 9. If you're not comfortable with his character stuff, I get it. And I do like that they moved down, but it's not like they got a whole lot out of it. And again, I just don't think Darnell Wright is worth the 10th pick. The Bears aren't like some massive loser, though. The rest of their draft was fine. I like Tyreek Stevenson in the 2nd round. They had a solid day 3 with Roschon Johnson and Tyler Scott. So I would say those are my losers. I think it was a lot easier to find winners, though. I think a lot of teams did really well, and not many teams did, like, horrible.
Yeah, just like I said earlier, you and me pretty much have the very similar opinions on these teams. The 49ers are probably the team I'd give the lowest grade to, but I feel like they just never draft for the round 1, and whenever they do, they always get a stud, like Ayuk the previous years. And even in those like later round, they get like Elijah Mitchell, George Kittle, Fred Warner. So I'm sure one of these players, like Darrell Luther from South Alabama or something, is going to be like an all-pro corner in like 5 years. Chiefs, I do kind of like the Felix and the Uzomah pick, but the rest of the draft wasn't all that great. And I kind of want to piggyback off what you were saying about the Bucks. I really like the Kalijah Cansey pick, because before the draft happened, I started talking myself out of the Eagles getting Jalen Carter, and I kind of like the idea of pairing Cansey with Jordan Davis, a run-stopping nose tackle with Jordan Davis, pairing with the pass rushing of Kalijah Cansey. Pairing him with Vita Vea is probably a lot better. I think Vita Vea has the pass rush upside and is already a top 3 run stopper probably in terms of defensive tackles. And pairing that up with Cansey's pass rushing ability, I think it's going to be a nightmare of a defensive tackle duo. And for a team whose D-line is getting older, they lost Ndamukong Suh, JPP's getting old, and I think Cansey's going to be really good on that defensive line. I don't think he's going to be up there in terms of like award-winning, but if you told me 5 years from now he's top 10, I kind of wouldn't be shocked. And I really like the Mouse pick there, trying to get younger on that offensive line as their left tackle's getting older, their guards are getting older. Ali Marpet retired last year, so I do like their draft a bit better than you would. And then a team like the Cowboys, it's a bit weird because I definitely thought they were going to do a lot more with their draft. We all kind of thought Michael Mayer was going to be the pick at 27, and when Nolan Smith was there, I just kind of thought, oh, they're going to take Nolan Smith. Him and Michael Parsons going to be a nasty duo. And they took the other Smith, Mousie Smith, the nose tackle. And it's really odd because there's definitely probably better defensive tackles like Keanu Benton in the 2nd round. And I know Smith is more of a nose tackle, run stopper type guy. But it still feels like a really weird pick, very anti-Cowboys. They got their time later in Luke Schoonmaker, but I feel like they could have easily traded up to get someone better. Like even Darnell Washington, even with his injury issues, fell down to round 3. They could have easily grabbed him there. I don't like that they got Overshown. I think Overshown is a very good linebacker prospect. But besides Overshown and probably Deuce Vaughn in the 6th round, the rest of the draft I did not really like. And for the for the Giants doing really good, I will take the Cowboys doing bad.
So there was one team in particular who had a very interesting draft, to put it lightly, and that would be my beloved Detroit Lions. And it seems like the national media really does not like what the Lions did. And on one hand, I get it. Positional value was bad. Our first 4 picks were a running back, a linebacker, a tight end, and a safety. Doesn't get worse than that, right? However, I don't think it was that bad of a draft for Detroit. I think Brad Holmes was actually cooking something. So at pick 6, I think it was very obvious that Devin Witherspoon was our guy. I didn't really see a scenario where he would not be on the board at 6, and I think the Lions agreed. I thought that was a very chalky pick. It was going to happen. And then Seattle, out of pretty much nowhere, picks him at 5. And I like how the Lions were able to regroup. They didn't force a pick at 6, which they say would have been Jahmyr Gibbs. God, I hope not. And I don't know if that's really true or not. They could just be saying that. But I like that Detroit was able to move down to 12, get an early 2nd round pick, and they still got their guy at 12. And I understand why people don't love the Jahmyr Gibbs pick there. But I have said for months, pretty much, that Jahmyr Gibbs is an awesome running back prospect, and if not for Bijan Robinson, he would be getting a lot more hype right now. I think the Lions are going to use him in a Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey type way as a guy who lines up really all over the field, in the slot, out of the backfield, use him in so many different ways, and just find creative ways to put the ball in his hands, because when he has the ball, he is a playmaker. Jack Campbell at 18. Again, a lot of people didn't like that. They thought it was early, but he's another player who I'm higher on than consensus. When we did our My Guys segment in the last episode, Jack Campbell was one of the 3 or 4 players I said on defense, because I think he's going to be really good right off the bat. I think he's got more upside than people think, and obviously the floor, as is quite high. The football character, all that. He checks all the boxes. Day 2 was a little bit more up and down for me. Sam Laporta was fine. There were arguably better tight end prospects on the board, and with us not using TJ Hawkinson all that much when he was on the team, I'm a little concerned about it, but Sam Laporta is a different player than TJ Hawkinson, so maybe we get it to work. Brian Branch, I really like that move, moving up for him. He's a guy who I've really wanted here in Detroit. I don't know if he's going to have to play a whole lot early on because the secondary is pretty deep, but he can be the long-term Chauncey Gardner-Johnson replacement, and even if Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is a long-term player here, I still think Brian Branch can find a role in the long term. The one pick that I really don't like was Hendon Hooker, and I feel like everybody kind of knows my stance on him. I think he's an overrated prospect. I'm not that high on him. But the issue I have with the pick is not necessarily that it's a reach, because it's not horrible value. It's the 3rd round. It's fine. It's not that he's 25 years old. It's not that he's coming off the knee injury. While he is a high-floored player, I feel like the ceiling for the team could go down overall. What is Hendon Hooker's ceiling? Is it much higher than Jared Goff? I don't think so. So if Hendon Hooker is going to be the guy for the next few years, I don't think the ceiling of the team is raised all that much, which is sort of my concern with this. He is a 3rd round pick, and hypothetically, if the Lions were to get an opportunity to get a game changer at quarterback, I don't think Hendon Hooker stops them. But it is a little bit concerning that if we view Hendon Hooker as our guy in a year or two, that could block us off from getting somebody who could be better in the long term. So maybe I'm overthinking it, but I think it could go bad depending on the circumstance of how he plays early on.
I'm just going to jump right in and pretty much say I straight up do not like the Hendon Hooker pick. I am probably the biggest Hendon Hooker hater you will ever see. He is as old as Matthew Stafford was when y'all traded him. He's coming off an ACL injury, which is really bad, especially when he wasn't all that mobile to begin with. Now he's going to be about as mobile as Big Ben was in his last year at Pittsburgh. It took him until the age of 24 to break out and be good, and that was in a gimmicky offense at Tennessee. And sure, he was good, but again, it's Tennessee. They're gimmicky as hell. And he's not a high ceiling type of guy. If he was a similar type of guy to, like, say, Anthony Richardson or Will Levis, I wouldn't mind it as much because there's that possibility of them being a top 10 QB. With Levis, if you told me he's a top 20 QB, I told you, okay, that's as much he'll ever do. That's the best he can do. Daniel Jones with no legs. That's Hendon Hooker right there. And third round, the value's fine. But when you're team like the Lions, who have Jared Goff, who's fringe top 10, and that isn't saying all that much because Goff isn't like the greatest guy out there, but he's serviceable. You need to get a type of guy who has that higher ceiling that can learn to be the type of passer that Goff can be, and then still have the running ability, the arm, and just the ability to elevate that offense, which I don't think Hendon Hooker should be able to do. If he can, go for it, hell yeah, but I don't think he's going to be able to. And I'll piggyback off of the Jahmyr Gibbs pick as well. Essentially, the Lions just took Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift and got two better versions of them. They got Jahmyr Gibbs, who is a lot better than DeAndre Swift and isn't broken at this point. And David Montgomery is just a better version of Jamal Williams, and they saved money while doing it. And then they got a pick out of it with DeAndre Swift. Jack Campbell, I don't get why they signed Anzalone, but Jack Campbell's already the best linebacker on the team, solidify the middle of the defense. You had free agency to solidify the back end, and you already have Aiden Hutchinson. You did draft the DT. Don't know who Project Martin is. Don't know why he gave 3 top 140 picks to go get him, but okay, go off. And the O-line's already good, and you got some weapons. I do think the Lions are going to be good. If you told me they made the playoffs, I wouldn't be shocked. But getting someone like Hendon Hooker, the future of this team when Jared Goff is gone, makes me a bit worried.
Let's take a look at some surprise Rookie of the Year candidates on both sides of the ball now. Obviously, it's easy to point out the quarterbacks on offense, and I think there's a world where really any of those guys who are going to start could win it. Bijan Robinson as well is very likely too. He's probably going to have a big year in Atlanta. But who are some sleeper Rookie of the Year candidates? We'll start on the offensive side of the ball. I know I kind of criticized the Jordan Addison pick a moment ago, but I think he could have a really good year in Minnesota. He's going to be able to contribute right away. He's going to be paired up with Justin Jefferson, who's going to command a lot of the attention from the opposing defenses. And Jordan Addison's going to be a guy who is going to be able to make plays right away on the outside and in the slot. And I think he's going to have a really, really good year for the Minnesota Vikings. It certainly is a talented running back class behind Bijan Robinson. I'm not convinced in Jahmyr Gibbs' role enough because I don't know how much he's going to get the ball for him to win the Rookie of the Year, but there are plenty of running backs down the board who could surprise some people. I don't know how Miami is going to use Devin Achane, but if he gets the ball a lot, I think he could be in play. If Zach Charbonnet somehow beats out Kenneth Walker, I don't think that'll happen. But if it did, I could see him having a big impact, and even some of the receivers down the board. I don't necessarily think guys like Josh Downs or Marvin Mims will win the Rookie of the Year, but I think they could be very early contributors for their teams. As for the defensive side of the ball, again, everybody's going to point out all the highly drafted pass rushers, all the highly drafted corners. It might be a little bit biased to throw Jack Campbell's name in the ring, but I think he's going to be really good right off the bat. Another player who I think is going to be really good is Joey Porter Jr. with the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's a perfect fit. He's going to start right away, and I think he's going to be able to produce. And again, I hate to be biased here, but if Brian Branch does play a lot as a rookie, he's another guy who's going to be really good right off the bat. So I could see a world where he is a potential Rookie of the Year candidate. I don't think there's any obvious defensive players on day 3 who could be like a Tariq Woolen from last year, but you never know.
Yeah, with how high value the top end of this draft is, people are going to be looking right at that top end of the draft for your offensive rookies, looking at those QB specifically. And you said Jordan Addison. I really like the idea of Quentin Johnson with Justin Herbert. I think he has a lot of comparison to a guy like Keenan Allen. And if Keenan Allen and Mike Williams aren't healthy, you're going to see Quentin Johnson on the field a lot more. And as long as he's healthy, he's going to have one of the best in the league to be throwing the ball. And he's really good at getting separated, getting open. And as long as the O-line is good, Justin Herbert's going to be slinging him the rock 24/7. It is going to be really fun to see Quentin Johnson rock with Justin Herbert. And I wouldn't be shocked if he was a sneaky guy to kind of come up there, go get the Offensive Rookie of the Year. And I want to try and find some sort of running back. I want to pick Zach Charbonnet, but with that situation, I don't think you can. But I'm going to be what you would be and just go with Jahmyr Gibbs. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be an instant day one difference maker. He's going to be getting the ball out in the backfield. He's going to be catching the ball out with Jameson Williams being out. And besides Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think he's probably the best pass catcher on that team in terms of week one. And if he's getting 15 carries and like 7-8 catches, that's going to be really good. And if you can continue that down, something like that down the stretch, he's going to be really damn good. And for the defense side of the ball, there's a lot of different guys. I think a guy like Lucas Van Ness is a guy who could potentially kind of come up there, fill in the hole of the partner in crime with Rashawn Gary for the Packers defense, kind of show up right away. Of course, I want to pick Jalen Carter or Nolan Smith to do it right away. But my boy, B.J. Ojulari, I think is probably the most underrated guy to go and get that award. If he's in the same type of role as Gannon had Hassan Reddick in or Josh Sweat in, B.J. Ojulari is going to be phenomenal. Obviously, Gannon isn't working with the same pieces he had in Philly last year, but B.J. Ojulari is probably the closest thing he will ever have to Hassan Reddick. And if he can do half of what Reddick did, he's probably going to get the Defensive Rookie of the Year. And I just love the idea of him in Arizona. I think that's probably the best spot he could have landed in just because of what Gannon has done with Hassan Reddick. And I want to pick someone else, try and find someone else. I like the idea of Trenton Simpson on the Ravens. Kind of letting Patrick Queen kind of go to the side, kind of relax a bit more. He doesn't have to do it all by himself. I think Trenton Simpson taking some of the load off of Patrick Queen might be able to make a good impact in the middle of that Ravens defense and help them out, maybe get to the playoffs again.
So with that, we'll take a look into the NBA and MLB seasons, but we'll be back kind of relating to the draft here. Let's now take a look into the NBA playoffs with the first round in the books and the second round starting this past weekend. And we've got some really interesting storylines. The end of the first round was pretty exciting. We had the Warriors-Kings go into 7 games. That was a pretty exciting series. We had some other interesting conclusions as well in both conferences. But now in the West, we have Phoenix and the Nuggets. Denver already leads 2-0. And then we've got the Warriors and the Lakers. Steph Curry versus LeBron James. That'll be a lot of fun. Draymond against his boy. And then in the East, the Heat and the Knicks. Miami's up 1-0, but Jimmy Butler's a little bit banged up. And then Boston and the Sixers. Philadelphia won the first game without Joel Embiid in Boston. So what are some interesting storylines to potentially look for there? I kind of like the Sixers' chances more than other people. Even before game one, I could see a world where the 76ers win this series. I know they haven't gotten out of the second round with this core of guys, but it just kind of feels like this year is different with them to me. And to win game one in Boston without Joel Embiid certainly says something. I would probably still pick Boston to win the series, but I don't feel super confident about it. And if the Sixers make it out of the second round for the first time, again, ever with this core, they will be the favorite to make it out of the East because they are better than both the Heat and the Knicks. As for the West, Phoenix was my NBA Finals winner at the beginning of the playoffs. They are down 2-0 against the Denver Nuggets, which is a little bit of a concern. I still think Phoenix I still think Phoenix can come back. They've got to win at home game 3. Ideally tie the series up at 2. And then it really goes back to anyone's game. And then in the other 2 series, we've got the lower seeds with Golden State and the Lakers. I feel pretty even about those 2 teams. If I had to guess, I think I would pick Golden State. They have plenty of playoff experience, but the Lakers have their best roster since the bubble team, and it's hard to bet against LeBron James. And then on the other side, the Miami Heat, the number 8 seed, really look like they could do some damage against the young, inexperienced Knicks team. Playoff Jimmy Butler is different, and it seems like he's going to try to play tonight. And if he does, well, I like Miami's chances, not just in this game, but going forward. I think they could make it to the conference finals. And who knows, could we see an 8 seed in the NBA Finals? I wouldn't rule it out with the type of player that Jimmy Buckets is.
Yeah, if any 8 seed is going to make it to the finals, it's probably going to be Jimmy Buckets and the Heat. I think they're going to be able to get past the Knicks, whether Jimmy is healthy or not. But I feel like whoever wins between that Sixers Celtics series is probably going to be who comes out of the Eastern Conference. And based on what we saw the last night with the Sixers beating Boston in Boston without Embiid, and Tyrese Maxey's playing lights out, James Harden put up 45, and the fact that they're doing all this without Embiid means, at least to me, this team wants it pretty much as the last year we had with Jimmy on the 2018 Kawhi 4-bounce drop. Pain. But I do think this team is ready to go for it. If Embiid can come back, if he's ready, whenever that happens, I think the Celtics are going to have a run for their money. When you have James Harden pretty much by himself putting up 45 against the last year's Defensive Player of the Year, and Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown, and all those guys, there's something going on. I don't know what it is. And another team I think is almost still underrated, the Denver Nuggets, have kind of figured out how to play basketball in the playoffs. It feels like it's been a while since they were good, and the last time I feel that they were good in the playoffs was when they were 6th seed. Since they've been the 1 seed past few years, they kind of have been disappointing. But they handled themselves well in the first round, and in round 2, they're up 2-0 against the super team Phoenix Suns. And if they're able to get past the Suns playing the Lakers or Warriors, I don't see why they can't beat them. Jokic is playing great. He's kind of fixed the defense a little bit. His offense has been as good as it's ever been. And if as long as they keep it rolling, I wouldn't be shocked if they make it to the finals. And then that Lakers-Warriors series could go really any way. I had the Warriors making it to the finals in our prediction. But I do think the Lakers are probably going to get it out. I think they're hotter right now. I know the Warriors are coming off that game 7, but with just how bad the Warriors are as an away team, I know they're the home team for the series, but I think LA is going to be able to just get over the hump with them.
As we get through the playoffs into the offseason, we probably will have some big-time names on the move. We're going to try to figure out which teams could be looking to add some big-name players, which players could be on the move. A team I would watch out for is the Los Angeles Clippers. With Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, they haven't really been able to go that far. They made it to the conference finals once, and that was without Kawhi, technically, because he got injured in the second round. And with them losing in round 1 to Phoenix in, just 5 games, I could see them potentially imploding. Another team to watch out for, I think this one is super unlikely, but I would monitor Giannis' status in Milwaukee. His contract is going to be up in a few years, so I don't think anything happens there right now. But I would look out for that in the future, and I would also look out for Luka Doncic as well, especially if Kyrie Irving leaves. The Mavericks have tried a lot of different things to build around him, and it just never seems to work. Again, I don't think that would happen this offseason, and I really don't think we're going to see a super big name traded this offseason. There just isn't like a super obvious player. If there were a big trade, there are some teams to watch out for. I think the Oklahoma City Thunder could be aggressive with all those picks and all those young players they have. And then similarly, the New Orleans Pelicans are another team with plenty of picks, plenty of players. The Pelicans want to field a winner around Zion and Brandon Ingram, and I think they're under a little bit more pressure right now than Oklahoma City. So again, I don't think we will see a super big trade, but it's the NBA. It never fails to disappoint. So by the time we get to July, we might see some top 10 player ask out. I wouldn't be that surprised.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see what guys like Luka or Giannis are going to do, but I don't think they're going to do anything this year. I think 2-3 years, then come talk to me. But one big name I think everyone wants to watch out for is always going to be Damian Lillard. Is the question of, does he want to finally get out? Are the Blazers going to finally force his way out, trying to finally kind of reset? And because I definitely don't think they're ready to do anything right now. And I think it's time. I think Dame needs to go, and his stock is probably higher than it's ever been. He looked like 2018 Dame again. He looked phenomenal, top 10 player this year easily. And him wanting out, I don't think he's going to want out. I think the Blazers are going to want him out. And a team that could probably go get him, a team that I think is going to go look to try and find a star. I don't know if they're going to find one. The Toronto Raptors, I think, in kind of a weaker East Conference. The Nets kind of imploded. The Hawks are kind of sitting in the middle ground. The Heat are getting older. The Bulls are older. I think the Raptors, with their young core right now, are going to go look to try and find a star. I think a difference maker like Damian Lillard could be the guy there. And Bradley Beal is always going to be in the conversation to try and finally get out of Washington. He said this past offseason he's kind of tired of losing so much, even though he just signed a 5-year max contract, so I don't get the idea of it. But I think he will probably be gone after this year. He might be the biggest name to leave in terms of trades. I'm not sure where he could go. It could be a whole Lakers thing, get a real point guard. But we'll have to wait and see if anyone in that Eastern Conference actually does anything, as a lot of these better teams are kind of getting worse, and you see the teams like the Cavs and the Knicks start to rise up kind of with that younger core.
So let's now take a look at the MLB season, some early storylines now as we enter the month of May. We are now a month into the MLB season, and I think we can start to make some conclusions about these teams and players. I don't like to do it too early, but now that we're in May, we are kind of getting a good idea of who's good and who's not. I'll start with the Tampa Bay Rays. They look legit. I know they had their big win streak to start the year, but even since then, they continue to play really good baseball, and they look like the best team in the majors right now. Does that mean they'll be the best team in October? No, but they're 23-6. They're playing really well. They have a run differential of plus 103, which, to put that into perspective, there's only one team in the American League along with the Rays who have higher than plus 26, that being the Texas Rangers, interestingly enough. There are some young teams who are really playing good baseball. The Orioles look legit as well. I wasn't really sure if they were going to continue to play at the level that they did last year, but they have actually taken it a step up. They are 19-9. They are one of 3 teams in all of baseball with single-digit losses, the Rays being one, and the Pittsburgh Pirates being the other. Pittsburgh has also been a surprise. I'm not sure if the Pirates are going to be able to hold up, but they do have the best run differential in the National League. So it's been really fun seeing these surprise teams like the Orioles, the Pirates, the Rangers really playing well. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to hold up, but it should be fun to see if they do. I think we're going to see teams like the Dodgers start to play better. They've won 4 in a row. The Padres have won 3 in a row. The Astros, I think, are going to continue to play better. So I still think we're going to see those teams continue to produce. But it has been fun seeing some of these lower market teams really play well to start the year.
Yeah, early on, both you and me were really high on teams like the Diamondbacks and the Cubs to kind of kick it up a notch. And both teams have been really good. But it's really interesting to see the teams like the Pirates and the Orioles look like top 5 teams in MLB this year. And see teams like the Yankees at the end of April be last in the division behind the Red Sox, who we thought were going to be top or bottom 5, I guess, worst teams in the league this year. Blue Jays are really good, right behind the Orioles by a game and a half. And the NL East as a whole as well. The Braves look good, of course they do. And the Marlins, Mets, and Phillies are all kind of clamored up right about a game or two right next to each other. And as of recording this, I had to bring it up. Tuesday night, Bryce Harper is finally coming back from Tommy John surgery. 160-something days he returned, a lot earlier than almost anybody has. He's playing DH, so he can finally swing the bat, won't have to rely on his arm in the field. There's a potential he might play first base to kind of ease his way into it. And then eventually he'll be back into right field, probably the DH, someone like Schwarber. But Bryce Harper finally back in this Phillies lineup. The lineup has not been the issue. Our offense has been great. Our pitching has been atrocious. So maybe if Bryce Harper can pitch with his left hand or something. I'm not sure. But Bryce Harper is lights out like he always has been. If he continues what he was doing in the playoffs while he had the tear UCL, then this offense is going to explode, and I cannot wait to see it at its peak.
We can really start to talk about some potential award candidates as well now that we're a month into the year. We'll look at some MVP candidates. I think the obvious one is Shohei Ohtani. He won it in 2021. I think he should have won it last year, and he's been even better this year. He's been very good offensively again, but his pitching, he has been maybe the best pitcher in baseball through the first month of the year. So you combine that along with good offense, and for me, it's him, and it's not all that close. If you want to throw some other players' names into the rings, Matt Chapman with the Blue Jays has been phenomenal. 2.1 WAR, which is the highest among position players currently in baseball. In the National League, it's Ronald Acuna. I'm really happy to see him producing after his injury because last year he wasn't all that good, at least for his standards, but this year he is back. He is better than ever. Some other guys to look out for. Jorge Mateo, maybe not as an MVP candidate, but he has played at that level through the first month of the year. Offensively and obviously defensively, he's really good. Mike Trout is doing Mike Trout things per usual. I can only assume he will continue to pick it up. Rafael Devers has been phenomenal this year in Boston. He's a name to look out for. And although it's unlikely we have a pitcher win MVP, there are some guys doing really well. Garrett Cole with the Mets has been fantastic. Max Fried with Atlanta has taken another step up. Sonny Gray in Minnesota has been very good too. Clayton Kershaw's back to business with the Dodgers. But right now I think it's Shohei Ohtani who's the best player in baseball. I think he's the easy choice for the AL MVP right now, whereas the National League it's a little bit more open. As for some Rookie of the Year candidates, I think I picked Corbin Carroll when we did our predictions. That's aging pretty well. He has been very good this season. Some other names to look out for, James Outman with the Dodgers. He has been phenomenal this year. He has the highest OPS among all qualified rookies at .973. Masataka Yoshida with the Red Sox. He has lived up to expectations. Josh Young, top prospect in the Texas Rangers organization. He's been good too. And then some other names to watch out for include some of these top prospects who are starting to play better, like Gunnar Henderson and Anthony Volpe. They started a little bit slow, but they've been producing a little bit more. Jordan Walker with the Cardinals as well. He obviously got off to a crazy start. He was sent back down to AAA. It's not so much that he's playing bad, but more so I think the Cardinals are trying to manipulate his service time. But if he comes back up pretty soon, which I imagine he would, then he will put himself right back in the NL Rookie of the Year race.
Yeah, I feel like when you look at the AL, you kind of gravitate towards those guys like Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout, Aaron Judge. And I think the team you have to gravitate to is the Rays right now, just how good they've been doing. And you have guys like Randy Rosarena, Wander Franco, Yandy Diaz, Harold Ramirez. They have all been playing fantastic. They have 3 players right now with over 1,000 OPS and then another 4 with at least 870. That is almost a whole lineup right there with at least 870. And that is just fantastic with Randy and Yandy both hitting over almost 320, almost a double-digit home runs already. They've been leading the way with this Rays offense, and it's been fantastic to watch. And the Cy Young in the AL, it's Shohei Ohtani. He has been lights out. There's rumors that he was going to get traded if they weren't playoff contenders. The Angels shut that down immediately, and he's probably going to be gone in free agency this year. So thank you for your service in LA, and he can wear blue in LA now because we all know the Dodgers are going to be spending for everybody. And you mentioned Sonny Gray. He has been incredible for the month of April with, I believe, right now a .77 ERA, which is, I believe, best in baseball right now, which is fantastic. Is probably understated, man. In the NL, it's a lot more chalky for both awards. For the MVP, I think you'd have to throw in Acuna in there, and I believe both Max Muncy and Pete Alonso are leading the league in home runs right now with, I think, 11 or 12 apiece right now. They've been fantastic, even if they haven't started the greatest right now. The Brewers, their offense has kind of started to pick up. You got their shortstop, who I cannot think of his name right now. It is Willie Adames. There we go. I figured it out. He's been really good this year. But when you look at the Cy Young, the first name that I have to gravitate towards is Zach Gallen. He has been lights out. He has been the ace that the Arizona Diamondbacks have thought he could be, and he has been fantastic. He started off a little cold his first 2-3 starts, but since then he has been lights out. He looks fantastic, and if he ended up continuing this, I wouldn't be shocked. If you told me he won Cy Young, I would not be shocked at all. And for the Rookie of the Year, I think right now it's a little chalky. Corbin Carroll in the NL, Masataka Yoshida in the AL. Masataka has been, along with him and Verdugo, have been the main driving force of this Red Sox offense. And he has looked like he's been an MVP player the past 15 years. And then Corbin Carroll's hitting over 300. He's one of the best base stealers in baseball right now. He has just been fantastic for this Diamondbacks offense.
So with that, we will go to our fun and game segment at the end, and I'm excited to explain the game that we have planned for everybody today. So for our final segment of the day, we have another new game that we are implementing with the NFL Draft wrapping up. What we're going to be doing is we are going to name a draft pick, and the other person is going to have to guess a player who was drafted there. So for example, let's say I choose round 1, pick one, then Nickinator is going to have to say somebody who was the first overall pick. So he might say Trayvon Walker, and that would be correct. We're not allowed to answer people from the 2023 draft this year, but anything beyond that is fair game. So I will go first with round 1, pick 30.
Okay, round 1, pick 30. That was when Nolan Smith just got drafted. Now, the way I got to think is who, lost the NFC Championship. That would be the Chiefs lost. Who did the Chiefs, was Trent McDuffie pick 30?
No, he was picked earlier because they moved up for him.
Oh, they moved up, that's right. I have no idea who moved down with. No, Lewis Steen was 32 with the Lions. So then the Rams beat the Niners. Who had the Niners picked then? Did the Dolphins have the pick then? They might have. Oh, wasn't Mbagnihi 30 or was he 29?
He was 30. Yeah, that's correct.
There we go.
That's not the one I was expecting. I had some other names here. Last year it was George Karlaftis. You were on the right idea with Kansas City.
That's it.
But it was not McDuffie. The big name that I had written down was TJ Watt. So that would have worked as well.
Oh, he was indeed pick 30. The first round pick I have for you is pick 24.
24. Okay. All right, I'm going to try to think of last year. That's probably the easiest way to do it. It wasn't Quay Walker. It wasn't Devin Lloyd. Who would have been between them, though? Because I think Quay was 22. So it'd probably be a good team who lost in the wild card round 2 years ago. I know Seattle was like a 3 seed and they lost to the Rams, but that might have been the year before. Brandon Ayuk was picked 25 that year. Who would have been 24? This year it was Banks, but obviously we can't do this year. I wonder if there's like an obvious player that I'm not thinking of. 24. Who would that be?
I have a list of a couple of different people. There's a good amount of star players currently,
Okay.
and there's one guy who's retired who was really good in his prime.
Okay. I feel like it'd be easiest to try to guess a recent one, like 2022. I don't remember who had 24. Yeah, I don't remember. What about 21? Najee Harris, I think.
Yup, Najee Harris is one.
Perfect. Okay, my next one for you is round 2, pick 37 overall.
Okay, I thought you were going to say my number, but it is not 37, so that's good.
It's going to be awkward when we have the same
37.
one.
It's very close. Now I got to think who was picked after all these guys that I had on my list. Okay, 37. So that's the 5th pick in the round. So let's say who picked 5 in 2022. That was the Giants. But was that the Bears pick or was that the Giants pick? I don't know. Then if the Giants picked in round 2, that's probably a trade down because I don't think either of them picked that early. I know a lot of the safeties went last year earlier on. Was Kirby 37 or was he later?
He was picked in the 90s.
Oh, well, I'm just off. Let's see. 2020. I don't know why my brain's thinking that. The Dolphins picked at 5 because they got Tua. They had 3 first. I don't know if they got their second that year, though. I don't know who they would have picked at 37. I might be off. No, because I know who they had at 36. Oh, was 37 Landon Dickerson?
Yes.
Because we picked
yes, it
right
was.
there. I remember that now. There we go. And I gave you pick 36.
36. Okay. Swift was 35. I feel like the Giants picked after him, but would they still have had pick 36? I don't even know if they had a second round pick that year. Would Xavier McKinney work?
Xavier McKinney does work.
Bang. Okay. All right, round
Uh,
3. I'm a little bit concerned that we picked the same one, but I did round 3.
We might have.
69.
We did indeed pick the exact same one.
Of course.
I didn't even think about it at first, and then I saw it. And I was like, oh well, I gotta do it. I'll just say Jason Witten because he was picked 69.
Okay, and I'll say Cooper Kupp.
That'll work.
Okay, now I think this is where it's going to get hard with day 3. So my number is 128 in the 4th round.
128. Okay.
There's some good players here.
See, I don't know like what to even think of because I can't name anyone off the top of my head. Oh, they were picked at 128. I know that. I have no idea. And I'm trying to think back to like when I was trying to look, and I can't think of anyone that was in that range. I can't think of any like good 4th rounders from last year. They haven't had time to be good. Was Romeo Dobbs 144? He might have been in the 130s.
It was not Romeo Dobbs, no.
Damn. There's probably like a bunch of O linemen. I just don't know these O linemen. There might have been like random receiver. Deontay Johnson was in the 2nd round. Scary Terry was round 3. Round 4. There was some other really good receiver that was round 4. But I could just be going insane because that 2019 class is really good. Can I get a hint to someone?
Okay, so I wrote down like the most obvious name here. My hint for you is that one of the two of us really likes this player. Like, we're really high on him.
Okay. I'm trying to think of Lions. Might not be a Lion.
My hint is that it's not a Lion or an Eagle.
Okay, that works. Awesome. Who are we on? Okay. I can't say Sean Tucker. He also wasn't drafted. Who are we high on? Tony Pollard, maybe? He was like 4th round?
Tony Pollard. Bang.
There we go.
The other kind of obvious name recently, or maybe not obvious, but the other like good player here is Gabe Davis.
Oh, I didn't even know he was a 4th rounder. I would take it. This one, the names aren't as obvious, but there are a lot of names that you'll recognize.
Okay.
Round 4, pick 99. This
Ooh.
pick also can kind of fluctuate to like later round 3. Just
so it can still be like a 3rd round compensatory player.
Yeah, so it could
Okay.
be, but some of these are also just pure round 4 guys.
Okay, cool. I think Afitu Melifonwu moves like the early 100s, so I don't think he works. Does he?
I have no idea. I'm going to check that.
Okay, I don't think he does. 99. I couldn't tell you who was 99 this year. I don't think it would be early enough for Kirby Joseph. He was like 93 or something. I could be wrong. Amon Ra was the 100s, so he doesn't work. 99.
I don't think Melifonwu works.
Yeah, I feel like this is more likely to be a late 3rd rounder, usually. Unless there's only like 2 compensatory picks that year, which feels low.
It's from what I was doing the past couple years, it's normally later round 3.
Okay, that's what I thought. There's a lot of like recognizable names. What about like Matt Peart? I don't know. I think he was picked around that range.
I remember his name. He might have actually. He was what, 2021?
2020.
2020. Where is he? Is he 99? He is 99.
Oh, really? I just thought he was somewhere in that range. That was a wild guess, but I'll take it.
You pulled that out of your bag. The big names there were like KJ Wright, Joe Sherbert, Rasul Douglas, Mike Edwards, and OFL legend David Bell.
Okay, cool. All right, round 5, I have picked 183. Or not, no, 153. And there are some good names here.
Was George Kittle 153 or was he 55?
He was not 153.
Damn it.
But the player drafted
like
at 153 in his draft is a pretty good player.
Is it Mark Andrews?
No, not that good.
Damn it. I don't know. I thought you were leaving me the tight end. So I'm like, oh, well, let me just go to the other tight end. Okay. They're pretty good. There's a lot of people. Who was in the 5th round? I can't think of any Eagle that was down there. I know Mailata wasn't. Who could potentially... You said 153?
153, yes.
Okay. See, knowing the number doesn't even help that much because I have no idea.
Yeah, it's really just guessing players in the round at this point.
I can't even think of people from that round off the top of my head. I know he's not good, but was John Hightower there? I know he was I know he was a 5th rounder.
John Hightower is not one of the players I see here.
Okay, that's fair. Oh, was this Tariq Woolen?
Yeah, I thought of Tariq Woolen. I was that's kind of an obvious one. Other names here include Matthew Slater, Dante Hall, although that was 20 years ago, and a bunch of former or current Eagles, including Jake Elliott. He was the George Kittle player I was referring to. Wendell Smallwood and Dennis Kelly.
Huh. Wendell Smallwood, Eagles legend. I have for you round 5, pick 149.
Okay, I think that's early-ish round 5. So I just got to think of who was an early 5th round pick.
It is very early. It's about 3rd-ish pick.
Okay.
Round 5.
Who could our 5th rounder? We've had a lot of early picks, so I'll try to think of guys who we could have picked. What about Jason Huntley? He would have been an early 5th.
He's not listed, but I will check.
I think. Some other option. Rodrigo could work.
I tried him. I don't believe he was 49. He was somewhere else.
Okay.
I did try to find one that had him, though.
I think James Houston was round 6, so that doesn't work.
Yeah, he was a 6th rounder.
Who was our 5th in 2021? What's his face? I don't think we had a 5th that year. No, I don't think we did. Amani Oruwariye, could that work?
He was what, 21?
He was 19.
19. I'm off. Let me check. 149. No. There is a very good player who was 149. Not like George Kittle good, but very good.
Okay, that year. Who would be a 5th rounder in 2019 who's good? Trying to think of an offensive skill position player. Could it be
I'll give you a hint. It is indeed an offensive skill position.
Okay, interesting. I can't think of the tight end it would be. It can't be a tight end. I can't think of any day 3 receivers that year who are good. I feel like it's a running back. Who would it be in 2019 who's good? I know he's not in 2019, but what about Aaron Jones?
I did not have him listed, but he might have. I will even say that the 2019 guy was, it is a receiver, and he fits one of your memes.
Oh. And he's good?
Yeah, he's good. I think he has a Pro Bowl.
Oh.
I believe so.
Oh, so he's he's good. And he's a meme.
Not him specifically, but he fits into a meme.
Okay, I don't know where you're going there, but who's a Pro Bowl receiver in the 5th round that year?
You'll know when you know it. You'll get it.
Okay, who's a 5th round?
He's a U meme. And Aaron Jones does not work.
Okay, tricky. A Pro Bowler that late. I can only think of all the really good receivers who were drafted early that year. Would he have been like a special team Pro Bowler?
No. If he was a Pro Bowler, it would have been because he was good. I think he was in 2021, I want to say.
Okay.
If I had to guess.
Huh.
Well, let me check that. I'm curious.
No, Hakeem Butler was not a Pro Bowler. What am I thinking? I wish.
This isn't OFL.
It's not related to OFL?
No, and he was a Pro Bowler in 2021.
Okie dokie. Who would have been? Hunter Renfro! It has to be him.
There
right?
you go.
There we go.
It is Hunter
He
Renfro.
was a Pro Bowler. And the meme is what?
The
That
other-
he's
the
a
other
white slot
big
receiver?
The white slot receiver.
Okay.
The bigger names there were like Jay Ajayi, Dion Lewis, and then Michael Dixon, Evan McPherson.
Some good players on that list. All right. My next one for you is round 6, pick 178.
Okay, so that's not far off from where I was kind of looking. I know Darren Waller was 180 something, so it's not him.
Nope, not
So
him.
178. There's probably some sort of lion there. Oh, what's his name? Sean Elliott? Was he there?
No. That's a good guess,
No,
though.
he
I
might
think
have-
that'd be around his range.
I think he was like a 5th rounder.
The list I have, there
So,
aren't really like many like Pro Bowlers, but there are some notable players in here. One of them is like definitely notable.
You said 178.
178, yes.
That's like early in the 6th round then. 6th round. I'm just trying to think who is picking high. Who's picked high lately? The Jags have. I am blanking. I can't think of any 6th rounder. Milano wasn't that high. Matt Milano, maybe? I know he was a late pick.
Nope.
Damn. Was 6th round, was Minshew there?
Gardner
Was he there?
Minshew, that is correct. He was the notable
I
one.
am in my bag right now.
Other
God.
notable names here include Devon Gottshaw, Zach Mettenberger, Arthur Moats, Nick Falk. It was slim pickings. Gardner Minshew was your best chance of getting it right.
Okay, I will take it. And then for you, I have round 6, pick 217. There are
Ooh.
3 names here that I have that are very noticeable.
Oh, okay.
They're not like Pro Bowlers, but they're you know where they're at. You know who they are.
217 in the 6th round. There's definitely like a running back in this range. I already know it. I guarantee there's a running back here. I'm trying to think of like 2017. Deontay Foreman was way earlier. Would Aaron Jones work there?
No, he was somewhere else. Let me
Okay.
double check.
Can't be Eckler. He was undrafted. It's too early for Jamal Williams, I think. Yeah, he was not picked in the 6th round. There could always be a special teamer there. What about like Justin Tucker?
Wasn't he earlier?
I have no clue.
He was drafted in 2012. I have no idea. 2012. I frankly no idea.
What was the number again? 214?
217.
217. Would this be the James Houston spot?
This is the James Houston spot.
There we go. Perfect.
The other big names I had were Khalil Herbert and Juwan Jennings.
Okay, there's some good players there. All right, my round 7 pick for you is 262.
Is this Mr. Irrelevant by chance?
Mr. Irrelevant changes each year, so it depends on how many
Okay.
comp picks there are. So there could be Mr. Irrelevance here.
Okay. there's a possibility we might have the same thing because I didn't specifically do 262. You'll see in a minute.
Oh, did you do Mr. Irrelevant?
I did do Mr. Irrelevant.
Okay.
But like, I was gonna say besides Brock Purdy.
Okay.
Is Ryan Suckup 262 or is he a different number?
No, but I think he was Mr. Irrelevant now that you say it.
What? All right, I won't give my answers then. So don't say Ryan Suckup. Cheating. Well then 262 is Brock Purdy, though, isn't it?
Yeah, Brock Purdy. He's the only
Okay.
one since 1988, which was former Lions GM Martin Mayhew. So there's not a lot of choices here, but this was the Brock Purdy spot.
Oh, well, I'm glad I looked at all of the Mr. Relevant players.
Okay, so now I know I have to do Mr. Irrelevant. I can't do Brock Purdy or Ryan Suckup. What was the name of the guy who we picked like 10 years ago? Toon? Nick Toon? Is that his name? The receiver? Something like that?
Possibly. I
It's
only wrote down the
something
notable
too.
ones, so I don't know off the top of my head. Every Mr. Irrelevant.
I'm trying to think of another one.
I think I
Ooh,
recognize
Chad
him.
Kelly was Mr. Irrelevant. I know that one for
Chad Kelly
sure.
was Mr. Irrelevant.
Okay,
He was.
wow.
The big like recent names I had were Trey Quinn and Tay Crowder.
Oh
Who
yeah,
else, Mr.
that's right. I
Irrelevant?
forgot about those guys. All right, so that is our game segment. That was fun. We should certainly do that one again, and that will wrap up the episode. So if you have anything you want to say to the people before we go off,
Not much I had to say. Just I was in my bag.
yeah, there were some tough guesses there on day 3. I won't lie. So everyone watching, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. We'll be back with plenty more content here on this channel, even with the NFL draft done. So yeah, that'll do it. Peace out.